do that. Right? It's fun to laugh in church. So Angela and I took a quick trip yesterday. I don't know if I call it a trip or not. The former church that I was pastoring in Kissimmee, our children's pastor had met all the requirements, all the education requirements and time served and gone through all the steps to be ordained by the church. Now, and so it was really cool. And so we got to go up to Lakeland, Florida, and I was given the honor to pray over Pastor Missy at her ordination service with the Florida District Assembly. A number of folks asked us as we showed up, why are you here? You're not on our district anymore. Why are you here? I'm like, because I had a Saturday free and I'm a nerdy pastor that likes to go to district assembly. No, that's not why I'm here. I'm not here for you. No, I didn't say that. Few of them I thought about it. But it was good to see her and pray over her and her family. And I love that our church, the Church of the Nazarene, I love that it doesn't matter the color of your skin or the gender that you are. We ordain those that are called by God. And the picture of ordination is just that beautiful thing where, I can't look at you and say, no, you're not called. I can't say that. That's not my place. But I love the picture of ordination where the church examines the individual. We walk through the process, and the church says, yes, I 100% believe that, and so we're going to set you apart as an elder in the church, ordained to help lead. I love the ceremony. It's a beautiful picture. And one of the phrases used in the ordination ceremony is this: go preach the word. That's such an important part of this. And I think the beautiful part of that is it's not just the person who's kneeling and being prayed on, but it's the rest of the folks who are listening and who are watching, because it reminds us that we are all called to share the word of Jesus. Yeah? I figured I wouldn't get a big response because that's kind of a nerve-wracking thing, right? You mean I have to go? Well, yeah, but you do it in the way that the Lord gives you. You're not going to preach the way I preach, or like how I'm not going to preach the way our General Superintendent Scott Daniels preach. He's quickly becoming one of my favorite preachers. I've got a handful, but I love to listen. And so, but you're going to minister in ways that I'll never be able to, because God's gifted you in ways that are beautiful. And so that was just a reminder for us that the 3-hour, 20-minute drive there, and then the 3-hour, 20-minute drive back, as we get back this morning, it was a long day, but it was a beautiful day. And it just reminds us of the beautiful family that we are a part of. I want you to know that we are bigger than just this, that we're a part of this awesome family called the Church of the Nazarene, that we're in over 165 world areas. Awesome. 31 of those we can't mention by name because we're not supposed to be there. But the gospel is so much more important than a law. Would you agree? The other quandary I have, the issue, we don't use quandary enough. Anyway, the other issue I have, we got back early this morning and woke up and got ready and came over, and I like to get here before anyone else and at least do a quick walkthrough. Sometimes that doesn't always happen, but I like to do that at least once, just by myself in the peace and the quiet before all the crazy gets here. I mean, before you get here. That slipped out. And it was in that moment, those moments, that the Lord said, Eric, you may want to reconsider your sermon. I love it when that happens. Because I got all my slides done early. And I have it all written out and ready and prepared to go. And I even dressed it up with, like, I put bolds and highlights and different things in there, and it looks really, it's all put together well. But the Lord's like, no, I think you need to go in a different direction. So Braden, you don't have to follow along with me because I'm not sure all those slides are going to fit. But I think it's important to follow obedience rather than plans. Amen. Would you agree with that? Yes. So if you have your Bibles, we're just going to jump right to, would you open up to Matthew chapter 22? It's the same passage as what I kind of originally had planned, but it's just a different direction. Open up to Matthew 22. This is a parable of Jesus about the great feast. The context of this story, this is later on in Jesus' ministry. It's approaching the time where he's going to be betrayed. He's going to be betrayed, and then he's going to be arrested and beaten and crucified. This is approaching that time. It's not quite there yet, but he's been in ministry long enough, Jesus' earthly ministry, long enough that he have achieved like rock star status. Like people followed him around because they wanted to hear the next thing he was going to say when he opened his mouth. They wanted to see the next miracle that he would perform. They may even want to be the recipients of what he was going to do. They'd seen the lame walk. They'd seen the blind see. They'd seen the deaf hear again. They'd seen Lazarus walk out of the tomb. They've seen some crazy miracles. They may even be some of the people who feasted on the fish and loaves miracle. Jesus has achieved this status now, and that was really never his purpose, by the way. If we read the Gospels, that was never really what he set out to do. Instead, what he set out to do was to bring a wholeness, a completion to that Old Testament covenant, that promise between God saying, I will always be with you. I am with you. I'm sending you someone to guide and direct and make a way for you. This is Jesus now. And Jesus enters the scene and uses phrases like, I am the bread of life. He enters the scene and says the only way to heaven is through me. Now this disrupted, this through all of what the Pharisees, what the Jewish leaders have been trying to teach and preach and really control, this took control out of their hands. You ever been around somebody when they were in control and then all of a sudden they weren't? Parents, this is like us all the time. We think we're in control. That's not the case. That little meat sack of bones is what controls us. I don't refer to the children as that all the time. Not all the time, sometimes. You get it, right? Yeah, anyway. But the Pharisees thought they were in control. They thought they were the ones in charge calling the shots. They thought everything ran through them. And now enter in this man who says, no. By the way, you're doing everything wrong. This is the way God intended it to be done. And he disrupts the system. And so throughout his ministry now, the Pharisees have been watching and they've been plotting and they're trying to catch him and trap him. Essentially, we think cancel culture is new in our world. It's been going on since then. They were trying to cancel Jesus. They were trying to find ways to trap him and to hold him and to disprove things that he said. And so Jesus gets to this point where he begins to tell this parable about the great feast. I'm going to read this morning out of the New Living Translation. Starting in verse 1, Jesus also told the other parables. He said, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a king who prepared a great wedding feast for his son. Now this is important because the wedding feast was a huge, important factor of the wedding ceremony. It was very important in that culture. Ours, we have all different types of wedding ceremonies. You know, we can just walk up to the courthouse and pay our little fee, and the guy comes out of the back room. Do you want? Yeah, okay, done. We're good. You can go the route through a church or whatever. There's all kinds of ways. You can find a friend to go online and get ordained in an hour, and you're fine. I wouldn't recommend that. But the wedding feast at that time was a super big part of this ceremony. It was an important part of their tradition. And so Jesus is using their own tradition to teach them and to speak to them about bigger things. When the banquet was ready, he sent his servants to notify those who were invited. Listen to what Scripture says. They all refused. They all said no. So he sent other servants to tell them, the feast has been prepared. The bulls and fattened calf have been killed, and everything is ready. Come to the banquet. They got 2 invitations. Well, actually, they got 3. Their first invitation, and then the servants went out, and then other servants went out. Hey, what do you mean you're not going to? It's time. Everything's ready to go. I don't know about y'all, but you don't have to ask me twice to come to a party, especially if there's beef. You write that down? We're having steak, invite pastor. If there's celery, I'll pray for you. You know, when God was designing stuff and making stuff in the garden, he would say, let there be, I'm going to create this, that. He made the birds of the air, he made the fish, he made all the green stuff. And then he got to celery and said, no, that's not right. I'm going to make it look like a weed so nobody eats it. It's going to get stuck in their teeth. It tastes awful. And in fact, there's really nothing good for them because they burn more calories eating it than what they get from it. It's not going to sustain them at all. So I'm going to make it look like a weed so nobody eats it. What's wrong with you? You're going against the known laws of God when you eat that. It's just, I'm teasing. I'll pray for you. The bulls and fattened calf have been killed and everything's ready. Come to the banquet. This is really their third invitation because their first invitation, then the first servants, then the second group of servants go out. Now listen to this, and I have trouble wrapping my mind around this. There's different preaching styles. One of the preaching styles is to leave these open-ended thoughts that kind of make us uncomfortable. This is one of these things that make me uncomfortable. But the guests he had invited ignored them and went their own way, one to his farm, another to his business. Now listen, I grew up on a farm. If I'm invited to a party, work on the farm. Party, work on the farm. It's not a hard decision, right? Or party, go to work at my business. Party, come on, really? It's not that hard to figure out. I have a hard time wrapping my mind around this. They ignored the servants and went their own way. And it goes even a step further. In verse 6, others seized his messengers and insulted them and killed them. Wait a second. Now the story is getting kind of dark. What do you mean? They were so turned off by the fact that they were invited to this party and they didn't want to be bothered that they killed the messengers. This is Jesus doing some foretelling, by the way. Folks, in your walk of faith, in your journey with the Lord, you're going to encounter people that you're going to invite. You're going to invite to the party. You're going to invite to be a part of the family of God. You're going to extend that. And they're just going to flat out deny you. And it's going to be hard to say, I can't wrap my mind around this. Why would you say no? We see later on these folks that are following Jesus, a number of them were martyred because of their faith. They were seized, insulted, and killed. Do you believe in your faith journey with Jesus enough that you would go to that length? The king was furious, and he sent out his army to destroy the murderers and burnt their town. We serve a jealous God, but we serve a righteous God. Verse 8, and then he said to his servants, the wedding feast is ready, and the guests I invited aren't worthy of the honor. Now go out to the street corners and invite everyone you see. So the servants brought in everyone they could find, good and bad alike. That's an important phrase. And the banquet hall was filled with guests. I love this part of the story. I love it. The king invites who he thinks are his friends, the important folks, the ones that culture looks at and says, oh, they're the ones that need to be at the party. Oh, they're the ones that need to be involved. They're the ones that need to be here. They have the right social status. They have the right jobs. They have the right look. They speak the right language. They have the right skin color. They have the right whatever. Fill in the blank. They're the right people. But they all said no. And so my understanding is that it doesn't matter about our status, where we're from, what we look like, our education level, how we speak. It doesn't matter about any of that. What matters is that we accept the invitation to the party. And I think this parable shows that. Now go out to the street corners and invite everyone you see. I love that. Have you ever the next day heard about a party the night before that you weren't invited to? Think about some of those moments, maybe growing up. When I was in high school, I grew up in a fairly strict home. We were a Christian, conservative home, fairly strict. I got to talk about girls when my mom was wagging a knife at me. Now, Eric, when you go out on a date, I didn't hear a thing she said. I was just watching the blade. You're getting a little close to me. It was You don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't chew, you don't go out with girls that do, things like that. That's just kind of how I grew up. We weren't around that. My mom has Crohn's disease. We couldn't be around a lot of smoke. It would flare up her stuff and things like that, and we just weren't around it. And I remember as a little kid, we had a big grain bin, big grain bin, and every once in a while some corn would spill out. We'd do our best to clean it up and make sure it was good, and we don't want to waste it. But every once in a while there'd be a little pile of corn or whatever, and if it would rain or it would be hot and humid, sometimes that corn would start to ferment. And there was this smell that would come from that. And I remember very clearly my grandpa saying, "That's what beer smells like. You don't want to be around it." And that stuck in my head, right? I don't know. It just stuck in my head. I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be around that stuff. And so in high school, it was very. I just let people know. Hey, I'm not coming to your party, but if you need me, I'll come drive you somewhere because I don't want you to get hurt. So I was that designated driver kid. I never got invited to a party. Never once. Now, it didn't really hurt my feelings because I was the one that said I don't want to go. But I remember hearing stories from others. Man, oh, you should have been there. It was so cool. So-and-so did this and jumped off into the lake, and it was so funny. And there were moments, and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have seen that. I wish you know what I'm talking about, right? You hear about it afterwards, and you're like, I wasn't invited. And those feelings of a little bit of sadness, little bit of sorrow, a little bit left out, abandoned. Listen to what the king says. Invite everyone you see. Jesus is teaching on the kingdom of heaven. We're called to go and invite everyone we see. Doesn't matter what we look like, what they look like, how they speak, what their background is. You realize that we don't have to get cleaned up to come in? You don't have to. So the servants brought in everyone they could find, good and bad alike. I've spoken to a lot of folks about this whole church thing, this whole religion thing. By the way, just so you know, I'm not a fan of religion because religion is a big, long set of rules. I'm not a fan of religion. I prefer a relationship because when I'm in a relationship with Jesus, I want to do things that will please him, that will make him happy. I want to do things to show that I love him. When I'm in a relationship with my wife, I want to do things that make her happy. I want to do things that's not behind her back or make her question our relationship together. That's the same way our relationship with Jesus. It's not that she shows up and says, okay, our relationship is based on if you follow all of these list of rules. She still has that, but it's not based on that. I'm teasing. Sort of. But I don't like religion because it's based on a set of rules. Jesus calls us into a relationship with him. And it's in that relationship that we learn to follow him and learn to love him and do things that would honor him and elevate him. It's not about us, it's all about him. And so as he is teaching this parable about the kingdom, he said the kingdom is like this. There's this awesome party. There's this amazing party. And I love the fact that beef is involved. That means, out of Jesus' mouth, by the way, steak in heaven, just so you know. I'm sure there'll be a salad bar for those that don't partake, but it's okay. There's going to be this amazing party. And all are invited. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter how much you know or how much you don't know. That doesn't matter because he came for all, and now our job is to help share that message with all. Folks, very few people are going to walk in these doors on their own saying, I wonder what this place is all about. Every once in a while that happens. But very few, that's not going to happen. So we have to take the message to them. So what if we started throwing parties for Jesus? I mentioned this I think last week and maybe a little bit the week before. But this whole theme of this series is talking about bringing people to Jesus. That's our goal. Our goal is not to get them cleaned up so they look nice and can fit in with the crowd. That's not our goal. Our goal isn't to fix them. Oh, well, you have this is your lifestyle, or you do that, or you've been smoking out there again. Were you drinking behind the church? Our goal is not to get them cleaned up or to fix them. Our goal is to bring them to Jesus. Because Jesus does this really cool thing. I'm sure he's done it in your life. He's the one that does the work inside of us. Yeah? He's the one that says, I know what you look at on the internet. I know those things that you do behind closed doors that no one else does. By the way, even though I know what you're doing, I still love you and want better for you. That's the Jesus we serve. That's the King that's inviting us to this great, awesome party. And now, as followers of Jesus, we have the privilege to invite others. Not to clean them up, not to make sure they have on the right party outfits, not to make sure they have all the stuff in order. Did you shower? Did you comb your hair? Did you brush your teeth? We're not treating them like a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, or sometimes a teenager, because we got to tell them to. We're not doing that. We're just saying, hey, here's the invitation. It's open to all. But before we get to that point, before we get there, have you accepted the invitation? I think we do a really good job of putting on that mask and pretending like everything's okay. Because we don't want to be left out. We don't want to be left out from the party. We don't want to be left out from what's happening or what's going on. And so we do a really great job of dressing up the right way, of acting the right way, of singing the right songs the right way. We do a really good job at that, but inside we're in turmoil because we haven't let the king of the banquet truly inside of who we are. So before we can begin bringing people to Jesus, inviting them to the party, are you where you need to be? Have you surrendered everything to him? Have you given all of yourself to him? Have you poured out yourself and said, Jesus, here I am in all my shambles. I'm not much, but here I am for you. Here I am. Have you done that? That's what I want to encourage you to do this morning. And I'm going to have our musicians come up, and they're going to help us, and we're going to finish our time together. Maybe you're at the point and saying, well, Eric, I'm good. I've accepted the invitation. I'm loving it. I'm a part of the family of God. I'm in the party. Well, great. Are you inviting others? Are you sharing that with others? Are you pouring out all that you can? Because that's really our role is just to invite. Invite. Not to fill these seats. Can I remind you of that? It's not to put hind ends in pews. That's just so you know, I'm not that pastor. Now, if this is the place where they can receive, that's fantastic. Or maybe they receive it in a small group in a home. Or maybe it's over a cup of coffee at a coffee shop. Folks, the Lord can meet us anywhere, anytime. Do you believe in that? But are you making the invite? There is only so much that I can do from a pulpit. In fact, it's very limited. You, on the other hand, you have a wide open field in front of you. And let me tell you this, I'm not going to ask you to do something that I won't first do. As your pastor, I'm going to be out there on the front lines with you, inviting, asking, encouraging, sharing, building relationships. I'm not going to ask you to do something that I'm not going to do. But I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you. Let's invite all that we can to the banquet. Let's invite all that we can to the party. Let's start throwing parties for Jesus. Can we do that? I'm not sure exactly what it looks like in your context or in your home or in your circle of friends or in your neighborhood. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but let's begin dreaming and thinking of ways to share the good news and hope and love of Jesus with everyone we come in contact with. But for that to start, it has to first start here. And so I want to give you an opportunity this morning, and we're not going to